Hello, my name is Nick Rocchio, and this is the redo for the informative speech. So, when we think of presidents of the United States, what do we usually think about? Probably George Washington fighting the Revolutionary War, or maybe Abraham Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation, or how about Franklin D. Roosevelt leading us out of the Great Depression? For most people, this would be the first response, as they're the most recognizable presidents. But the majority of people would not be able to even name the century that these presidents served in. Personally, I see this to be really unfortunate, which is why I'm going to speak about these presidents who really did a lot of good things for the country, but did not see any of the recognition. I've always been interested in history, specifically U.S. history, so this is just natural for me. So the presidents I'll be talking about today are John Tyler, James K. Polk, and Zachary Taylor. So let's move on to the history behind each of these men. So I'll start off with John Tyler. He was elected in the election of 1840 as Martin Van Buren's vice president, but took over as president as Buren died only 31 days in office. So he was the first president who actually was not elected, and this would work to set the precedent for this future. So Tyler would go down in history as probably one of the most hated presidents. He averaged a 39% approval rating, which went all the way down to 25% at some times. So he really was hated. Um, so historian Leonard Dinerstein from the Virginia Historical Society agrees with this, as he said, this is one of our main errors of our constitutional history. So this may be why one of the reasons he was forgotten to history. He was not well liked in America. So regarding his accomplishments, while small in number, they are still important to this day. His main one is mostly said to be the admission of Texas into the Union. Though Texas joining the United States was inevitable, this really did speed up the process considerably. So let's move on to President James K. Polk. So the fact that most people do not recognize this president really does surprise me. He is probably one of our most important presidents that America's ever had. He's responsible for expanding America westward, and really America would be probably half the size it is today if it wasn't for him, which is either a good thing or a bad thing compared to where you stand. So President Polk was elected in 1844 following the mostly below average reign of previously mentioned Zachary Taylor. He oversaw strict expansionist policy, which is one his main trait really. So Polk, an interesting fact about Polk is that his wife, Sarah Polk, was the first lady to really have an important role in the government. This really wouldn't happen until Theodore Roosevelt's wife when he had polio in 1940. She really helped a lot. So Sarah Polk would help with meetings he had and sometimes even policy decisions. So really, she played a large role in the government. So in 1848, Polk considered most of his major goals completed. So he actually opted out of running for re-election, which is interesting because he's one of the only few presidents to do so. So Polk is probably the most accomplished person on this list. His feats range from reinventing trade deals with Britain to massive acquisitions of land on the western frontier. His largest accomplishment has to be the acquisition of states such as California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Nevada. This was mostly accomplished through the highly controversial Mexican-American War, in which America successfully invaded and essentially took half of Mexico. So, as said by George Robinson, professor of political science at the University of Northern Iowa, he would later call the most unjust war in history when he referred to Ulysses S. Grant. So this is a person back then, saying how controversial and outright unjust this war was. So it really probably another reason that these presidents are forgotten, is that they're so controversial. So next, I'd like to move on to President Zachary Taylor. So Taylor is an interesting president. He only served for 16 months. So he was a renowned general prior to his election. Taylor was known for fighting against Native Americans as well as in the Mexican-American War. So he created an image of himself as a soldier of the American Republic, that he would protect America, and it's probably why he was elected. So, and this is his main appeal, and it's really, reflected even today. We see presidents and candidates doing that almost as they want to protect America from outside threats, which was seen to be, at the time, Native Americans and the Mexicans and Britain, all those powers. So, though Taylor's accomplishments are limited by both his short-term and overall political incompetence, he was still able to get the Clayton-Burton Treaty signed, which is a deal with Great Britain, essentially determining the fate of Central America, and he also laid the groundwork for the future of the Panama Canal. So, finally, I'd like to talk about what these presidents have in common. So, these presidents all share something interesting in common. They all served during the 1840s and essentially ruled the entire decade. This is mostly the largest reason why they are forgotten to history. So it was a boring time. There really was no interesting things that happened. The only really major event was the Mexican American War, which only lasted a few months. The entire decade was mostly peaceful with foreign countries, which really leads to it being left out of the textbooks. The next major shifting point in America would take place in 1861 with the start of the Civil War. This is 11 years after the last of these presidents left office. So they really did serve during, a boring time, you could say. That probably is why they're forgotten to history. So that's my speech. I hope I corrected the things I got wrong before, and thank you.